Okay, let's talk about one of the most important things. If you want to become a sophisticated investor, I've got something that at first glance appears to be like basic, but I don't care how advanced of an investor you are, listen to this, because this is not as simple as it thinks. So before you want to be good at anything, this is what Alan Nation told me. He said, he's my second mentor. He was Joel Salatin's mentor, so he's the mentor of my mentor. He said, before you can change anything, you have to understand honestly why it is like it is now. Sometimes people try to change the world but they don't diagnose the problem correctly. So for example, if you go into your doctor and you don't feel good, so you're sick, and he just goes, you have cancer in your big toe. But the real problem is you have a headache. Yes, he got the general thing correct. You don't feel good. But his specific angle on it is going to be incorrect. He's going to like amputate your toe, but you still got a headache. That's how people are with investing. Let me show you what I mean. Let's follow along here. People say, I suck with investing and money because I don't have much money to start. Or my parents didn't teach me about money. Or the stock market just happened to crash. Or blah, blah, blah. Well, I agree most of us suck with money when we're started, and I agree there's some truth to of course I believe the school system's messed up, but I'll tell you the more accurate reason we get investing wrong. We don't understand the definition of two things. So the fundamental part of this course, you have to know the fundamental definition of these two. And I did a TEDx talk. It's now like one of the top 10 or 20 talks of all time. I flew to Belgium, and then I went to a little town nearby, and there was all these other professors doing their talk, and I did my talk, and while I was waiting to give my talk, there was one of the top professors of economics outside, and so I asked him the same question that I'm going to ask you. I said, what's the definition of money? And I told him, everybody I ask, I think, gives the wrong answer. And so he gave an answer, and I think he was wrong. So I said, well, I didn't want to be disrespectful. He was like a 70-year-old professor. I said, but I think a better answer is what I'm about to tell you. And he looked at me and he goes, yeah, I think you might be right. So here's what I told him. The definition, I used to think it was only 2 words. I think it's actually 3 words. So I've improved this. And by understanding this and what I'm going to put here, you're going to become more of a magnet for money. Because to be a good investor, some people are kind of magnets for money. You ever met somebody who's a magnet for disasters? Like I have a friend. Growing up, there was this girl named JoJan. Okay? She was a magnet. I knew her as a teenager. I would say almost every day of our teenage life, she had a cast on one part of her body. I'll never forget. She had broken her arm, fallen down the stairs. I hope JoJan's not listening to this. She lives in San Diego. This is when I live in San Diego. She fell down the stairs, broke her arm, okay? Then it was like, you keep a cast on for 6 weeks. She went to the same church as me and Joey, my best friend. And so she finally got it off. And she was Joey's neighbor. The next day, I kid you not, her mom said, take the trash out. She took the garbage and was like swinging it, like just, like a plastic bag of garbage. There was glass in it. She sliced her leg, comes the next day, and she destroyed tendons or whatever. She has like a cast on her leg. I'm like, this is a new record for you, JoJan. It's been one day, and you figure out how to get a new cast on. And I'm telling you, I think she had 10 casts in the time that I knew her before I moved to North Carolina. So she was a magnet for disasters. So when it comes to money, I know people that are magnets for disaster. And I think how you break that cycle, you break that curse, is you know exactly what money is. So memorize this. Take notes. Money equals scarce, in demand, this is a key word, resources. Now, investing, we're investing money. So what are we really investing? We're not really investing money. Money. This is money right here. It's 10 G's, okay? It's cotton. It's actually a $100 bill is not $100 of value in cotton. It's a medium of exchange, right? But it has an underlying utility. And that's why we say money, for it to be money, it has to meet all three of these definitions. It has to be scarce. What happens if the U.S. economy and the Federal Reserve prints too much money? Inflation. I was just down at a conference. Where was I? And somebody handed me an actual dollar bill, but it wasn't a dollar bill, from I think it was Zimbabwe, Africa. And they now print $1 trillion bills. And it's worth $1. That's called inflation. They printed too much money, and now you need $1 trillion to buy a candy bar or a Big Mac or something. My grandma was born in 1918, February 20th, 1918. World War I was still going. Right after World War I, when Germany surrendered in the armistice, there was a big recession in Germany. My grandma said she grew up eating carrots, carrot soup for breakfast, carrot soup for lunch, carrot soup for dinner. There was no food. And she said, you know what happens, Ty? You turn orange. She said, we all turned orange, like, what is it, Veruca Salt or whatever on Willy Wonka, where she turned purple or whatever. That happened to my grandma. And the reason was Germany printed so many, I think it was Deutschmarks or whatever it was, that money became valueless. People would take wheelbarrows of money. You'd get paid at work. And you'd try to run to the bank fast enough that it was still worth money. Okay, that's inflation. So good, for things to be good investments, for things to create money, they need to be relatively scarce. Apple stock. Apple may be the first company that ever becomes worth $1 trillion. So if you want to buy Apple stock, one of the principles you have to understand is that there's a limited amount of Apple stock. They cannot print. Now, they can do what's called a stock split, but that's just like taking a cookie and doing it in half. It doesn't change the value. But if Apple every day released 1 billion shares, 1 billion shares, 1 billion shares, 1 billion shares, then Apple stock would be worth eventually zero. So the first rule as an investor for you to become sophisticated, understand that for things to be good, they have to be scarce. That's why sometimes when I hear people are going to start a business and they go, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. It's kind of hard. Not many people know how to do it. I'm like, no, that's a good one. That'll probably be a magnet for money. Remember how I said you can be a magnet for disasters and poverty? You can also become a magnet for money by just understanding things need to be scarce for them to turn into money. Money equals scarcity. But scarcity in of itself is not valuable. For example, I could make a piece of art right here. Okay? And I could say, oh, I was in Ty's course. There's only one of these in the world. It's scarce. Therefore, I'm a magnet for money. I'm a sophisticated investor. Nope. Because notice I put other words there. This is true. This is scarce. There's only one. Horrible drawing like I just did. There's only one. But is it in demand? Have you ever met somebody who goes, you know what would make my day better? If this was hanging in my living room. No, there's no demand for this. Why? It's not valuable. It's not interesting. Now, Pablo Picasso, if he had drawn like this, it'd be in demand just because of his name. Sometimes you see certain art and you're like, wait a second. This is not valuable because it's scarce. It's valuable because people demand, I want a Picasso. Okay, but I am not an art. If I put my name here, Ty, I have zero street cred in the art world. So this is exactly worth $0. I promise you. If you take this, you try to invest this, you go talk to people and say, yo, I got something for you. You got a nice car? All right, I got something for you. And they go, I don't want that. And you go, but it's Ty. It's not in demand. My artwork is not in demand, and you can see why, hopefully. So we're going to throw this away. If you want to be a magnet for poverty, try to sell my art. Now notice, so there has to be demand for it. That's why another thing, I know people are on the wrong track when they're starting businesses. They go, dude, I'm starting a business. I'm going to make so much money. I go, what's the business for? Underwater basket weaving course. Is that in demand? Have you ever met a human that woke up and said, you know what's missing in my life? I demand a course on underwater basket weaving. No, there's no demand. Therefore, ipso facto, it's not going to translate into a good investment. It's not going to translate into money. Then lastly, what do I mean by the word resources? Well, this is the easiest word to understand here in some ways. Resources, it's somewhat related to in demand, but in general, the things that make money have actual usefulness. Okay, let's think of the largest company in the world. Right now, it's Apple. It's the largest company in history. Now, is this iPhone a resource to me? Is it useful, is another word? Well, yes. I now no longer need a laptop. I no longer need an office. If I'm traveling the world and I need to do business, I have this resource. This is an iPhone 7. I haven't gotten the 10 yet. Now, they've sold some crazy amount of these, like over 1 billion of these, because people see them as a useful resource. So when you're investing your money, when you're trying to create a business, make sure it's in something useful. Now people go, Ty, that's too obvious. Oh, no. There's lots of companies. There was a company, one of the biggest failures in the last 10 years in Silicon Valley was an app called Color. How much did the Color guy raise?
60 million.
He raised $60 million. It was for some app that what was it do? Photo editing, something like?
Local photo sharing, right?
Yeah, local photo. But you know what? So investors gave him $60 million. Just imagine that number. Imagine your bank account. Someone transfers $60 million. Okay? 6 0 0 0 0 0 0 0. You'd be a good day, right? And you told them, you know what I'm going to do? It's a great investment for you to put your $60 million in me. I know I'm a magnet for money. Great investment. I've created a resource. It's going to do something that nobody cares about. Local photo sharing. You can just text people photos. And it was a pointless app. And guess what? All that money that people invested, they said goodbye to because it was worth exactly zero. It wasn't useful. So as you're thinking about what to invest in, make sure it meets all 3 of these criteria. As you're building a business to create cash flow so you have money to invest in, make sure what you're doing is relatively scarce. There's a reason Ronaldo makes a lot of money as a soccer player. There's a reason Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant because LeBron James, the basketball player, how many 6'8" athletes do you know personally? None, right? Probably, most people. He's scarce. Now, he plays basketball. And I'm just going to clear something up. People say it's not a fair world we live in because school teachers make less than basketball players. I'm not going to argue with that, but I'm going to explain the math behind it. I'm not going to explain the morality because morally it does make sense that a teacher is more valuable to the world than a basketball player. But mathematically, economically, I can explain it. How many school teachers are there in the world? Millions. How many 6'8", highly coordinated, 6% body fat, 280-pound people are there in the world? Okay, LeBron James is more scarce. So, okay, he got 1 point. In demand. What do people love more? Going to class or watching basketball? Just honest, let's be honest. If you went to somebody in America or whatever country you're in, and especially America, we like basketball a lot, and we said, what would you rather do today? Go to class and get lectured and take exams, or go to a basketball game with LeBron James? You're going to lose that. So he wins on in demand. Now, resources, what's more useful, a school teacher? Okay, so maybe a school teacher is more useful than a basketball game. But he won 2 out of 3. He makes more money. And trust me, you can run this exercise through everything. Apple, why is it the most valuable company in the world? Did you know, have you ever used other phones besides Apple? I mean, I'm not trying to be an Apple evangelist because I don't like Apple laptops, by the way. But this phone, I have friends that have these Samsungs, and I'm like, why don't you just have an iPhone? This thing is better resource. It works better. I see them trying to do it. It's such a great, useful resource. Phones are in demand, and it's scarce. There's no other thing designed like this. People have tried to copy it. They got trademarks on it. They have patents on it. You can't even copy it legally if you wanted to. So that company that's so useful, so in demand. How many people do you know who have a phone? How many people do you know that say they don't want a phone, a cell phone? There's 323 million Americans last time I looked. If you gave everybody the choice to have a free phone, how many people would say no? Basically, all 323 million that were old enough. Maybe even my grandma's 99. She got an iPhone. She sent me one text. She sent one text in her life. She has like the phone, like the words are like this big. It's funny to say on the phone. But it's in demand. It's useful. This phone has more processing power than the first rocket that took man to the moon. Man to the moon didn't have as much computing power as this thing, so it's a resource. It's in demand. And if you like the design and the layout, they have a patent trademarks on it. It's impossible to be more scarce than when you have that. So guess what? Almost $1 trillion company. And this is their flagship product, I'm pretty sure. That and probably laptops. So it's important you know this. And this, remember how I told you in the introductory video that the way to become a sophisticated investor is understand book knowledge, academic knowledge, and combine it with street smarts and common sense? What I'm talking about now is the common sense. So when your friend comes to you and says, invest $10 million. This is what happened to my friend. He sold a company for $18 million. He spent about $8 million of it on paying off taxes and buying a house and cars. His friend came to him and said, do. Best investment for you ever. We're going to build subdivisions between Los Angeles and Las Vegas. So my friend put in $2 million. Then they said, we need a little more to finish it. $6 million. He put all $10 million in. And guess what happened? 2008 came, and do you know what it looks like between Los Angeles and Las Vegas? It's a pure desert with no people. So he forgot something. Yes, it was scarce. He was going to be the only subdivision between here and, between Los Angeles County and Vegas. It was a resource, because a house is a resource. It's useful. You go in it. You get shelter. But he forgot something. It wasn't in demand. How many people have you ever met that go, you know what I really want to do? I want to live in a disastrously hot desert with no people, no jobs, no stores, exactly 2 hours away from the nearest Los Angeles civilization and 2 hours away from Vegas. I've never met somebody who goes, you know what will make my life better? I really am demanding living in a hot desert with no one around. So he forgot. He did that one, but he didn't have common sense. You right now, just watching this for 15 or 20 minutes, has more common sense than he had in his entire investment strategy, and he lost $10 million. He had to go back and get a 9 to 5 job. He forgot the first rule of getting rich. You only have to get rich once. But he didn't have common sense. So I hope each of you, even from this little kind of seemingly simple thing, now get it. Like every investment that you go into, you have to check the box on all three of these. If for any reason you can't find all three checked, then you need to be very careful because you're about to lose your money. Now, so we defined money. Let's define really what investing is. So what is investing? And I'm going to tell you, there's many ways we could define investing. I'm going to give you kind of some buzzwords that I want you to write down and memorize. I hope you remember. What is it? Scarce, in demand, resources, or you could say usefulness. Scarce, in demand, useful stuff, okay? You invest in scarce, in demand, useful stuff, you do it with some common sense, you'll be probably okay, as long as you don't freak out when things go up and down. You'll probably be, if you break any of these rules, say goodbye to your money most likely. Okay, investing. What is investing? This is my definition of investing. That was the definition of money. Now you take the money, you have to invest it. Okay? There's a couple buzzwords. I'm not even going to say sentences. Key principles you need to understand are risk tolerance. Just remember this. Plus volatility. I just want you to remember those things. There's a lot more we could say, but let me explain on the next page. So here you got to remember 3 words: scarce, in demand, resources. For the word investing, you got to understand risk tolerance and volatility. So people are going to tell you, what's the best investment? Should you invest your money here? People are going to, as you start making money, yo, invest in me, invest in me, invest in me. Okay, you're going to have to just go back to the basics. Not basics, fundamentals. It's like you can't build a second floor. This house has 3 floors. You can't have that floor without this floor. It's not like this floor sucks and that floor is awesome. Sometimes when I do fundamental lessons, people go, no, get to the good stuff. I'm like, what do you mean good stuff? This bottom floor of my house is definitely just as good as up there. So don't overemphasize day trading Forex stuff, which is the 8th floor of a house, and you forget to build a bottom floor. This is the best floor. If I could only have 1 floor in my house, it would definitely be this one, because if I take this floor out, that one falls down. So please, some of you, I'm telling you, you get a little ahead of yourself and you're like, no, I'm too sophisticated for this. No, the greatest basketball players in the world are good at free throws, basic. First graders can shoot a free throw. They're good at rebounding, they're good at assists, they're good at defense. They might not be able to do a 360 windmill dunk. The best soccer players in the world have great ball control. They might not be able to do, one of those axe kick reverse, but they're still good at soccer and football. So with investing, you don't have to be able to win the dunk contest. You don't have to be able to do it, but you got to be able to do this. So here's what I mean. Let's break these down. We got risk tolerance and we have volatility. So the second you think of investing, think of this. Here's what I mean. Let's break these down real quick. So risk tolerance is about you. Oops, that's an L. That's about you. Meaning the only person in the world who can answer that question is you. Volatility is about the world outside of you. So here's what I mean. Something can be a bad investment for you and a great investment for me. Give you an example. If you only have $1,000 left, okay, and you invested in raw land, I think you made a mistake. Because raw land's the riskiest kind of real estate to invest in. And if you put 100% of all the money you have left over, you're not understanding that you can't take that much risk. You cannot take all $1,000 that you have and put it in the riskiest type of real estate. But for me, at this point in my life, I can put $1,000 into raw land and I can take the risk because I have other money other places. So what I mean by this is personalized. You have to know where you are in life. To be a good investor, there's things that are bad investments for you now that 1 year from now will be amazing. Does that make sense? Now, what do I mean by volatility? This is completely unrelated. Oops. I forgot this. Volatility. This means that forget your psychology, forget where you are. How much does this freaking investment go up and down? Now, if you ever meet somebody that says this thing will always go up, you're talking to a moron. Run for your life. Name one thing that goes up that's never come down on planet Earth. Outside of the universe, outside of planet Earth, I don't understand. By the way, this program only pertains to planet Earth. So if you have a connection to an alien or the Andromeda galaxy, you can forget this course. But inside the confines of planet Earth, name something that's ever gone up that didn't come down. Mountains go up through seismic activity, and they come down, erosion. Every mountain in the world's coming down. Every time it rains, water is a universal solvent. Mount Everest is smaller now than it was yesterday. Everything that goes up must come down. Laws of entropy, laws of gravity, laws of physics determine that. Everything that goes up must come down. Of the first companies ever on the stock market in the 1800s, okay? The original, what's called the DJIA, Dow Jones Industrial Average. Which of those companies, how much of those companies still exist? Only one, General Electric, GE. And guess what? It's been going down. 2001 I worked for, or 2002 I worked for that company. It was the largest company in the world. Not anymore. What goes up must come down. And every other company from the 1800s no longer even exists. Kodak, the biggest brand in photography, 2012 ceased to exist. Instagram replaced it. Not completely, but it's no, Instagram sold for $1 billion the year that Kodak disappeared. What goes up must come down. So if you meet somebody that goes, listen to me, I'll tell you a true story. My friend, Dr. Fresco, that you guys know, he came to me about more than 5 years ago. He said, yo, man, listen to me. I got a buddy down in South America. I need to borrow $150,000 from you, Ty. This was on a Monday. I'll never forget. It's when I lived in Raleigh, North Carolina. I said, dude, give me 150 grand, and on Friday, I'll give you double the money back. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, my friend down in Buenos Aires, Argentina, said that if I give him 150 grand, he'll give me 300 grand back, and I'll give it all to you, or whatever. We split the profit. I forget what it was. I said, what are you talking about? You telling me you can guarantee there's no volatility? You can guarantee that from Monday to Friday it will go up? I said, now Herman's very smart. Remember I said you have to have a combination of intellectual and street smart? So I got a lot of street smart because I didn't go to college, but he has a PhD in molecular neuroscience. Very smart guy, valedictorian of the entire New York State school system. #1 student in the state of New York. New York State is bigger than most countries. He was the #1. Double major. He's the fastest PhD to graduate in molecular neuroscience in the history of the United States. So we ain't talking about a dumb guy, but he didn't understand the first floor of investing. So he just said, oh yeah, anybody who tells you, by the way, an exact prediction on when it'll go up, like Monday, give me till Friday, automatically they have no street smarts and they're about to lose his money. So I told him, listen, dude, I'm not giving you 150 grand because you're going to lose the money. And it's going to strain our friendship because I'm going to be like, so I gave him, I'm pretty sure I gave him either 10 or 20 grand. I said, just take this money. You ain't never going to be able to pay me back, but I know you have good intentions, but I don't believe in this scheme that your friend has in Argentina. Sure enough, Friday came. Oh, by the way, Herman went out and talked to 10 other people and they gave him 150 grand. I gave 10, he got like 4 people to give him money. Come Friday, I call, yo, and I knew the answer. I'm like, how'd this thing go? He goes, oh, I just got a call from my friend in Argentina. He said he almost has the 300 grand, but he needs till Monday. I said, oh, here we go. Here we go. Monday comes. Dude, Ty, I don't understand. He's not answering my phone call. I said, well, do you know this guy? He's like, dude, childhood friend. My mom's best friends. We've been friends since 5 years old. There's no way he'll rip me off. I said, well, it's not just ripping off. Other people are stupid. And when stupid joins up with stupid, you get stupid. So maybe his friend wasn't trying to rip him off, but they were going to import TVs from the United States to flat screens. It was one of these ideas of like, is that scarce? Yes, flat screens aren't scarce anyway. They had flat screens in Argentina. It was some weird idea. Sure enough, it has been 5 years. He has never seen a penny of that money. My common sense meter went off. My spidey sense went off. I said, dude, anybody who tells you there's no volatility in things is not an investor, is not on the wavelength you need to be. All things go up. Bitcoin, mark my words, it's going to go up. I don't know when it's going to stop going up. It will go down. But you don't need to fear down because maybe you want to buy when it's down. We'll get into that later. You don't always have to fear things going down because then you buy more. People fear real estate going down. I'm like, I'm waiting for real estate to go down. Once you become a sophisticated investor, you think exactly opposite of 99% of the planet. You want the stock market to go down. Wouldn't it be great if there was volatility in cars? So let's say you want to buy a new car. Say you need a SUV. So today, an SUV is $60,000. What if there was See, cars aren't really investments, but let's say they were. Wouldn't it be great that one day you wake up and the price of SUVs had dropped to $15,000? As long as you're buying, why would you be sad? It'd be the best day of your life. You get a $60,000, then you just buy it at $15,000, then you wait for that thing to go up, and if you can figure out when it's back to $60,000, you not only got to drive it, but you got to sell it for $60,000. Then you just Uber for a little while, wait for the bad boy to drop again. Now, you can't always predict the ups and downs, but my point being, Once you become a sophisticated investor, you understand volatility. You don't fear the up or the down. Smart investors, I know sophisticated investors, they love every cycle of the thing. So they love the down because that's when they load up on stuff. That's okay. My fish feeder is going. You can leave it. I got an automatic fish feeder. My sophisticated investor friends, they love it right here because then when it's going up a little bit, they can still buy because it's low, but they can also sell some because it's going up. And they definitely love the top of the market. And then they love it dropping again because now they buy all the way down. And even if they don't perfectly time the market, they got the right direction going. So you see the power of understanding the basics, the fundamentals of money. What's money again? Scarce in-demand resources. What's some good way of understanding what composes investments? Risk tolerance, how scared you are, and volatility. Okay? I'm going to talk about one last thing. I want to go back to this for 1 second. My fish, you can hear having a feeding frenzy. I have one bully fish. He like eats more than all of them, and he knocks them all out of the way. That's why he's so big. He's like an American fish. Come on, bud. Stop. You guys live together. They live together every day for years, and they still fight each other. It's just like humans. They don't get along. Okay. So last thing, I want to talk about risk tolerance. So let's talk this last thing before we close. Risk tolerance, I want to get in that a teeny bit more. Think of it this way. You can think of it as a triangle, or you can think of it, maybe we'll do it this way this time. Here's a 1, and here's a 100. Okay? I don't know where you are. I want you to answer as part of your homework. 1 means if you lose 1 penny, you can't sleep and you have basically a heart attack, conniption fit. Okay? 100 is you can go to Vegas, take your entire life savings, put it on the roulette table, spin the dice, and if you lose it, you go, it's okay, let's go grab some food. So I want to ask you, on the risk tolerance, how much risk you can handle, are you a 100? You're a Vegas person? Or are you a 1 and you're hyper conservative with your money? Now, where are you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to show you a little trick here that they should have taught us in school that I've never seen anyone teach anybody, but I'm going to show you. Let's just say, just name your number in your head, okay? 1 to 100, be honest. How much are you, if you lend a friend $100 and they pay you back $1 or 0, does it really bother you for a prolonged period of time? If so, you're probably more conservative. I'm definitely more this way. When I first started having money, I remember over 10 years ago, I had like $250,000 cash, or a little more than that, maybe 400,000 cash. And a friend of mine's like, dude, I'm in North Carolina, I'm gonna build a house, you put the cash in, then I'll refinance the house and give you your money back plus $20,000. So he asked for 42 grand. So I said, sure, 42 grand. Now I knew in my head, good chance when you lend people money, you never get it back. Sure enough, it's been over 10 years. I've never seen even 3 cents from that. But you know what? I'm probably a 70. So it bothered me for like 1 week and then I forgot about it. Like I literally will go 1 year with forgetting about it. So that's a good litmus test. 50 is like, you're kind of on the fence. It bothers you but doesn't. So most people, I would say either 1s, 30s, 50s, 70s, or 100. Just know yourself. Now, here's what you do with that number. You take the total amount of investable money you have, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, what that is. Let's say you have $10,000 left over in the bank that you don't need to pay your daily bills, your monthly bills. Take the 10 grand, and let's say you're a 30. Okay? You just do 10,000 times 0.30. Make sure you add the decimal in your calculator. Or 30%, it's the same thing. Which equals $3,000. This, and we'll be talking about this a little later, that's your true investable amount. It's not the full 10,000. Now, if you're me, I'm at probably a 70. 10,000 times what? Remember I said put the decimal, 0.70, put it in your calculator. It comes out to 7,000. So I have my risk tolerance, if I have 10,000 in the bank, allows me to put 7 grand into investments, knowing they could come up and down. But if I lost it all, I wouldn't have a heart attack. Okay? Know yourself. Now, this is an approximation formula. It is not an exact science because psychology is not exact. The brain's too complicated. But I want you to err on the conservative side. So if you think you're a 50, go to a 40. And this is going to help you in this program because some of you are going to forget this part. And guess what you're going to do? You are going to get a 10,000 and you're going to put all 10,000 in something. And then it's going to go down. Maybe it's stock, maybe it's gold, maybe it's Bitcoin, maybe it's real estate. And you're going to have a heart attack and send me an email going, Ty, I'm having a heart attack. What can I do? And I'm going to say, watch this video again. Please understand risk tolerance. Very simple, one more time. Between 1 and 100, what are you? If you have if you're a 40, add a decimal. Take your $1,000 in the bank that you have left over times 0.40. That means you can invest $400, no more. Okay? This will save your life. Sophisticated investors like Warren Buffett calls this a margin of safety. Margin of safety has many applications, just so you know. He means a slightly different thing. I'm borrowing that adage and using it here because, as you'll learn in this program, it's very important that you not overinvest money that you can't really afford to lose. And by the way, if you go to Vegas, use the same formula. Zach, last time I went to Vegas, you went to Vegas, how much money did you bring with you?
I tripled my money.
But how much money did you bring with you?
What? Oh, with me?
Yeah.
Well, that would give away how much I won.
Okay, let's say Zach brought $100 with him to Vegas. So his total potential is 100. He has to know his Vegas risk tolerance. How much, if you bring, let's say $1,000, Zach. If you bring $1,000 to Vegas, will you have a heart attack if you lose all 1,000?
Not a heart attack.
But you won't feel good.
No.
What's the amount on a 1 to 100 scale? Okay, this is the percentage you're okay with losing and not really losing any sleep over it.
On gambling or on the...
Gambling. No, don't say that. $1,000.
Yeah, I mean...
$500 of it?
Yeah.
Okay, so Zach just said for Vegas, you can use this formula. He brings $1,000 to Vegas. If he loses 50% of it, he won't have a heart attack at night. So he would just do in his calculator 1,000 times 0.50, 50%. So that means he should really only bet $500 because especially in Vegas, there's a good chance you'll lose all that you put on the table. Now in investments we'll get in later, you can make this a more complicated formula by going what are the odds that you'll lose the money, blah, blah, blah. This formula, you can get very mathematical, but this is just a great approximation. Zach should put $1,000 in his wallet, drive to Vegas. He can drive by my friend's failed building. I think it's gone now. I think the sand has blown over his $10 million real estate investment. Takes that, but he should really only put $500 in his pocket when he walks down to the blackjack table. And then he can feel free to go crazy with it, double down, bet, put it all in on one hand, because worst case, he knows he got that $500. That's his margin of safety up in the room. Start thinking this way and you'll be a better investor. So, final thing, your homework here. Notice each lesson you're going to have to unlock the next lesson, you need to answer something below. I want you to answer one simple thing. We've talked about a lot of stuff. What is your number, 1 to 100, and what is your amount right now, total amount, not counting money needed to pay rent, not counting money, but extra money, and I want you to just do the math. This is the simplest homework ever, below. So if you got $1,000 and you're a 40, write out the formula below. 1,000 times 0.4, $400. That's the amount you should be investing in anything. Keep the other $600. If you're a 80, and you got $6,000, you do 6,000 below, write out the formula, 6,000 times 0.8, which is $4,800. That's what you can put in various investments that you'll be learning throughout this program. Okay? So finish that up, and we'll see you on the next lesson.